Man, right off the bat today, the corner of the apartment is working for me. All right. How's everybody doing? How you doing, honey?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. So today, if you guys are not aware, is Bible study day.
Yes.
You ready to learn some shit about the Bible?
Oh, I can't wait to hear what you have to teach us, honey.
Yes, and I have a lot to teach you.
Do you?
Yeah, so today we're going through 2 Kings 21, 22, a little bit of 23, and 2 Chronicles 33. Mm-hmm. And last time, if you don't remember, Nahum bitched out Nineveh for being shitty as fuck. And that was pretty much the entirety of Nahum, like the entire book.
Yeah, because it was a single prophecy.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a bitch fit against Nineveh because they fucking suck. So anyways, we're going back to Kings to get caught up on the whole Game of Thrones situation with Israel and Judah. And we're going to fast forward about 40 years from the prophecy of Nahum. Molasses is going to die and he becomes an anal king, if you guys remember what that is. I'm guessing he bedazzled his asshole right before he died.
It's not what happened.
His son, Eyymon, took over while he was still a little fuckboy. His mother was a mushmeth from the trailer park. So that's where he was cultivating his wives from, I guess. Eyymon was only king for about 2 years. And it's definitely because he was a fuckboy. He fucked up and he made God mad. And then his officials also got mad and off that little fuckboy. It's not wrong. Josiah then became a child king at 8 years old, which if you're doing math here, that means that Eyymon was getting his fuck on when he was 16 and had a kid. I would love to see that particular episode of 16 and Pregnant with Mushmeth.
Mushmeth wasn't his wife; it was his mother, and it's not Mushmeth. Damn it!
Sorry, that was Molasses' wife. That's right. We don't know who in the world Josiah fucked to have a kid.
We don't know that was Molasses' wife. Manasseh's wife. Stupid intros.
But rest assured, Josiah reigned for about 31 years because he sucked God's dick appropriately. And I gotta say, there was no cocksucker like Josiah ever. But God still has a judgment against Judah, so God's still gonna fuck him up, even though he is sucking God's dick appropriately. I mean, that's really disheartening to hear as you're deep throating God. What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? So, as you can tell by the sigh, I mean, I don't know if you guys can interpret the sighs yet, but I definitely can. We got some shit to work on today. I think I managed to fuck up a lot in a short amount of time, so.
It actually, the basic storyline was pretty spot on.
Okay.
The sigh was on your embellishments.
You call them embellishments. I just call them truth. No, they're definitely not. It's not literal. But if we were to observe the events from our perspective now, he was a fuckboy.
Was he?
Mm-hmm. Eyymon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we would describe him as a fuckboy.
Would we?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't describe anybody as a fuckboy because I don't even really know what the definition of that word is.
Well, we could. I mean, it's an Urban Dictionary thing. I'm sure that it's not a real word.
Yes, let's rely on Urban Dictionary for all of the things.
Let's see.
You know that's how I do it.
Yeah, Urban Dictionary. Someone who is looking for a piece of ass to use and then throw away. And I mean, I feel like that what we're going to find out is that he is the embodiment of that for Judah, or wherever he's ruling. I think he's ruling Judah, isn't he?
Yeah, he's ruling Judah, but I don't know that I would describe him that way. But okay.
Well, let's see. Let's see.
Okay. I'm glad that we're going to take this time to determine whether or not Eyymon is a fuckboy. Okay.
Well, Josiah's definitely not the fuckboy. It is definitely Eyymon.
If there has to be a fuckboy in the story.
Yeah, there does.
Oh. According to GE. Okay. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, yeah, John was right. Last time we were talking about Nahum, we read the entire book of Nahum, which is the a single prophecy about Nineveh, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from that time, it's about 40 years to where we are now, or to when it happens, when Nineveh is destroyed, right? But we're not actually going to talk about that today. We're going to get you caught up on the king situation in Judah. Okay?
Okay.
So, you ready?
Yep.
We're going to start off strong here. The other events of Manasseh's reign, including his prayer to his God and the words the seer spoke to him in the name of the Lord, the God of Israel, are written in the annals of the kings of Israel.
Oh, Jesus Christ, those annals.
Which again, for any of you who haven't listened in the past, those have never been found.
No,
there are no documents of this.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they even ever existed. I mean, do you think that maybe this is like just the perpetual book that they're like, oh yeah, we wrote them down in the annals, the annals?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like perhaps they existed as a record of kings. I mean, other ancient cultures have had records of their kings and records of, you know what I mean? So
yeah, but
in the area, like in ancient Mesopotamia and things like that. So it could have existed, but it's convenient that they just say, oh, all of this is written here, but then that has never been found, and none of the stuff that they, like the other stuff that they're talking about or anything that they point to, we have no confirmation, no ability to confirm.
Right. Well, I mean, do you remember in The Office when it's the day where Michael goes through all of the complaints between the employees, and like Dwight is like, I want this to go on Jim's permanent record that gets shipped to corporate.
Yeah, that he sends to corporate, and what's his face has it under his desk.
Right. It just collects there because he puts in so much. Toby. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is the annals of the kings. It's just like, yes, I'll put it into corporate. And they just sort of write it down and then put it away somewhere that's obviously going to be trash.
Perhaps. We don't know. We don't know what happened with it. Okay. His prayer and how God was moved by his entreaty, as well as all his sins and unfaithfulness, and the sites where he built high places and set up Asherah poles and idols before he humbled himself. All these are written in the records of the seers.
The records of the seers?
Yeah.
Is that the annals or?
It's a Hebrew manuscript, and supposedly in the Septuagint, in most Hebrew manuscripts of Hosea, Hosea, Hozai.
Oh, but we actually have those, it seems.
Supposedly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Manasseh rested with his ancestors and was buried in his palace garden, the Garden of Uzzah. So Manasseh's dead, right?
Yes, Molasses is dead. Yeah. Finally.
He's gone.
Fuck.
And Eyymon, his son, succeeded him as king.
Eyymon!
Eyymon was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem for 2 years. His mother's name was Meshulameth.
Mushmeth?
Daughter of Haraz. She was from Jotbah.
The trailer park.
Okay. It doesn't actually say that. He, talking about Eyymon, did evil in the eyes of the Lord, as his father Manasseh had done. Eyymon worshipped and offered sacrifices to all the idols Manasseh had made, but unlike his father Manasseh, he did not humble himself before the Lord. Eyymon increased his guilt. As for the other events of Aymon's reign and what he did, are they not written in the book of the Annals of the Kings of Judah?
We don't know.
We don't know. Aymon's officials conspired against him and assassinated the king in his palace. He was buried in his tomb in the garden of Uzzah.
All right, so here's my argument for Eymon being a fuckboy. So it's pretty much somebody who's just doing what he wants to do and using shit and you know, throw, you know, as like a throwaway kind of thing. Of course, it's not a modern definition of a fuckboy, but his lackadaisical take towards his kingdom and everything that his father did definitely puts him in the column of an ancient fuckboy.
Okay, honey.
I will debate anybody on this topic. Email me at john@godlessengineering.com.
Don't email me. Okay. All right. So let's see. Oh, the people of the land killed all who had plotted against King Aymon, and they made Josiah, his son, king in his place. Okay. So Josiah was 8 years old when he became king. And like John said, so Aymon ruled for 2 years. When he took over being king, he was 22. So he was 24 when he was killed, and he had an 8-year-old son. So yeah, he would have had a child when he was 16.
Yeah, still, I can't get the MTV show 16 and Pregnant out of my head.
Yeah.
That was a sad fucking show. Because these girls, like, I've seen a few of them, they had no idea how to take care of a child, and they should not have had a child.
Well, I mean, when you're that young, no, you don't really know how to take care of a kid. Hell, there are plenty of people who have kids when they're grown-ass adults and have no idea how to take care of a kid. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's hard.
The entire show had me on edge because, like, there was this one episode where the girl had the baby, and then like was in the midst of changing the baby's diaper or something like that, and just left the baby on a table.
Oh,
yeah,
that would stress me out.
I mean, yeah, the entire, like, I don't know why I watched the show. I guess it was just morbid curiosity, but the entire time I was just like, don't do that. No, what the fuck are you doing? Stop it.
Yeah, I never watched it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I do, when I see stuff like that, like in any kind of shows where they do something crazy with the kid, and I'm just like, oh my God, please stop. Yeah, I'm not even a parent. He reigned in Jerusalem for 31 years. His mother's name was Jedidah, daughter of Adiah.
Obviously, that woman's parents had a stutter.
At first when I read it, my eyes skipped over and I was like Jedidiah, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. Jedidiah is not right. It's Jedidah. There's missing an I there. So daughter of Adiah, she was from Boskath.
These names are just so weird. It's like when you're watching a foreign film and then in the credits you just see some fuck named Robert.
Well, I mean, and that's why it's interesting, because you have all of these crazy ass names in the OT, and then when you get to the New Testament, your gospel writers are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Give me a fucking break. Like, they could have at least chosen names that were more Middle Eastern.
Right. Well, I mean, just in the Old Testament though, because we go Mushmeth and then
and then Ben.
And Josiah, like Josiah is I feel like a reasonable name, but
well, you think that though, because it's carried on. Josiah is the name that people have now. Like, people, if more people were named Jedidah, then it might sound more normal to you.
Maybe. I mean, it's just kind of weird how all of these very complex names kind of lost out to the simpler ones like John.
That's because most people can spell that. Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, so he, talking about Josiah, did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and followed completely the ways of his father David, not turning aside to the right or to the left. If you remember, it's been a while since we've heard this phrasing, but that's basically where they say not turning to the right or to the left or turning to the side, meaning he's staying on the straight and narrow path. He's following the ways of the Lord and he's not veering from that at all.
Oh, this isn't talking about dick sucking techniques?
No.
Oh.
No. Neither before nor after Josiah was there a king like him, who turned to the Lord as he did, with all his heart, with all his soul, and with all his strength, in accordance with all the law of Moses. Now that is a lot. I'd imagine Judah had a difficult time with this, especially after all of this time going back to the exact law of Moses in the land.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of laws of Moses.
Yeah, there are.
And they're harsh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Complicated. I feel like it's comparable to the tax code we got now.
Yeah. Nevertheless, the Lord did not turn away from the heat of his fierce anger, which burned against Judah because of all that Manasseh had done to arouse his anger. So the Lord said, I will remove Judah also from my presence as I removed Israel, and I will reject Jerusalem, the city I chose, and this temple, about which I said, my name shall be there. Now, what I think is pretty fucked up about this is that, Josiah is king longer than Manasseh was king. Manasseh was good for the majority of his kingship. Remember, in the beginning he was bad, but he humbled himself and removed removed the idols and all that stuff, and made great reforms in Judah to follow more like what God would want. And he did that for most of his kingship.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you got to admit it did take a kidnapping in order to get him to do it.
It did, but he humbled himself and God brought him back, according to the story.
Right.
So God chose to bring Manasseh back. And then Manasseh did what was right from that point forward.
Yeah.
So clearly God has not forgiven Manasseh, despite all the work that he did after he fucked up initially, and he changed his ways, and he changed the ways in Judah, made serious reforms, and none of that mattered, apparently. And the fact that Josiah was perfect according to God's way the entire time he was king, 31 years, and it still didn't do any good. God was still pissed and about the initial years of Manasseh, and so he is still going to remove himself from Judah and fuck him up.
Right.
Yeah. So it's almost like there's nothing that you can do to attain this like forgiveness from God and this him to like for you to change. There's no point here. There was no point in Manasseh changing. There was no point in him following God. There was no point in Josiah being the most exceptional king in regards to the laws of Moses and the way that God would want you to be. There was no point in that because Judah was still going to get fucked up. And nothing, obviously there was even perfection could not change that.
Right.
For 31 years. So when Josiah he took over when he was 8, he started to make significant reforms in Judah when he was 16. So it took a little while, but I mean, he was a child king, right? So, but when he was 16, he made significant reforms in Judah to make sure, to fix what had happened when his father, I'm blanking, his father, Eyymon, when Eyymon was there.
Eyymon.
Yeah. So, but that was only for 2 years. And prior to that, Manasseh had done a really good job with her. So I guess I don't understand the purpose of even trying to be good according to the biblical law if God's not going to forgive you.
Yeah, which I feel like this is kind of an important thing to highlight because of the fact that you have all these evangelicals and street preachers and everything that talk about how we need to turn back towards God and everything like that. But, they're saying it from a societal point that we as a society need to turn back towards God. But it seems to me like if God's already passed judgment on us, then he's already going to wreak havoc on us, whether or not we turn back to God anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems kind of like a fruitless thing. I mean, this is just simply not the way. If you want to convince somebody to adhere to your rules, this is not the way to do it, I don't think. Like, I mean, this is holding on to a fucking, like, thing for a while. This is a grudge that he's holding on to for 31 years.
Yeah. So that's all for this week. And I know it's kind of short, but it sets us up for another book of prophecy.
Great.
Zephaniah.
Yeah.
So next week we're going to go through the book of Zephaniah, and it's Zephaniah's prophecies about the day of the Lord, right? And it talks about how, basically when Judah had a child king, the government leadership was it was difficult, right? And they didn't have the strength and power that they needed for spiritual renewal when Josiah was so young.
Okay.
So spiritual leadership had to come from older men, and one of the young king's distant relatives was a prophet, Zephaniah. Okay, and so he, like Josiah, is a descendant in the 4th generation from the king Hezekiah. Okay, so he has a mission and a message that's similar to the prophets before him, bringing judgment against immorality, injustice, and pagan idolatry. So we're gonna have some of that, and you're gonna hear about that. And so we'll go through Zephaniah next week. And he's going to have some judgment for various places, not just Judah, but Philistine, Moab, Cush, Assyria. And he's definitely going to list Judah's sins. And the plan for restoration, we're going to have that. We're going to have some talk about that, and the honor for the redeemed. So we're going to hear about that. And then we're also going to have a small bit next time from 2 Chronicles 34, where it talks about Josiah's reforms.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys want to hear more judgment next week because God's a judgy fuck, then I guess you'll need to tune in then. But in any case, always
stand up and use your voice.
Bye, heathens.
Bye, y'all.